Bell?
All right, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I went to school as far as college, and I made it through high school, and still doing the right thing, just still being in that young mindset. I still kind of got swayed away into the life that what we believe, you know, from the media, the stuff we see in our environment, that we think that this is the way. And as far as I can say through my comments, it's been good and it's been bad. As far as some people say, well, how do you go through school and you've been in the game? And a lot of people get confused, and you know, a lot of people think it's all bad, but it's just not as bad. You know, it's good people still in that, but it's still bad things that happen, and that's through ignorance. You know, and I can say through their comments, I made it through. You know, I could have been doing a lot of time. I could have been dead, but you know, I'm still here, and I'm very blessed to be here. You know. And I'm 31 years old. You know, I have 2 sons and a daughter. And I try to tell them every day, you know, the things you see on TV, the internet, Facebook, all that, it's not what it seems. You know, it's an illusion. It's an illusion, and it's really hard for, you know, young people to get through that illusion. And that's pretty much what I can say about myself with that illusion. You know, it's crazy. You know, it can sweep you up. It can really sweep you up. Cause I got swept up in it. You know, and it just took time through growing to where, you know, you change. And see, a lot of people get confused that, you know, changing and growing is 2 different things. And you know, I like to just leave off right there.
Mr. Harris, why don't you give us some information in reference to your situation?
My name is Dwayne Harris. I'm from South Central Los Angeles, and I'm a former gang member, former gang leader. I have 2 sons that was murdered in Los Angeles, and it's a shame that that our kids are killing with no remorse. You know, like my brother said, it's illusion, it's ignorance, but it's that our system and stuff don't teach them. We don't have enough means to really teach these young guys how to be men. You know, they're misled, misrepresent, and it's hard to get them to stop selling these drugs and stuff when McDonald's won't hire them. And we keep saying you need to stop doing this and stop doing that, but we ain't trying to show them what they need to do, or take the time out to really understand what they're going through. You know, see, we done lost the whole concept of our community and our black people and our young people, man. They don't know how to respect the older people, and then the older people don't know how to respect the younger people.
Very good. And of course, let's take Ms. Greenlee this first commercial break, and then we'll get back and we'll have Ms. Greenlee to start us off for this 8-minute segment. And we'll be back with our audience following this short commercial break. Thank you, and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Ms. Greenlee, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Bell, 3 members of the audience, of the panel, who have had some tragedies in their lives. And Ms. Greenlee thought that they could pull this organization together and call it Save Our Sons, in recognition to the fact that some of them have lost children to the violence that we face today. Let's talk about it from that perspective, Ms. Greenlee.
Yes, Dr. Haney, you know, for a long time, everybody know me as the program I also have called Moms, Mothers Over Murder. I've always had mothers and grandmothers and aunties and sisters crying. And me, the mother of a murdered son, myself, Rodriguez Greenlee, 2003, I really felt lost that I didn't have the father to stand here with me, because he had a loss too. This is the first time ever that I've had 2 fathers to stand here with me and talk about what this means to them as a father of a murdered son. If we don't get to the point of saying, what can we do about it instead of the pointing the fingers and the blaming, then we're not ever going to find a solution to this. You know, I sit here also with you this morning because I want to say March the 23rd, which will be coming up the following Monday, would mark a year for me burying my 18-year-old nephew. And then I lost an 18-year-old grandson all in 1 year last year. So this is really came to a point in my life where I got to keep speaking up as a female, being out in the trenches and also knocking on doors saying, help me, so we can guide our youth. This is what I'm talking about. I need the fathers to stand up and to help me guide our youth. These young men need to hear from the mother and the grandmother, but they need to be led by the father and the grandfathers. And so I have a plea that I'm asking all fathers, listen to these two daddies up here and this young man that's just now becoming a father, and here they plead to come out and stand with us, because it's about us guiding these young people, not pointing our fingers at them.
Very good. Now, Mr. Harris, what's your story?
Well, like we were speaking of, I lost 2 sons. They both was murdered. And it's so hard to forgive. You never forget. But then when I abolished my lifestyle, I try to learn to forgive, but also it's hard for the kids in the street to forgive different situations, different scenarios that happen, you know, the tragedy they go through. So as men and as black men, we got to learn how to teach our youngs to, even when you experience different tragedies or different things, you have to have someone there to be for. The mans need to learn how to teach the young boys to be a man. We need the women to teach the young girls how to be a woman. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not easy. It's not easy for me. Sitting here, it's hard. For me to say I really forgave the people that killed my sons would be a lie. But and through the tragedy and everything, I'm learning. So this is what we got. It's all a learning process. I'm new to this, but I'm willing to give it 100%. Thanks to Ms. Greenlee, I understand my calling. And this is what I'm here for, to try to teach my young men a better life, a better lifestyle. You know, you're responsible for your own choices, you know, but if you have somebody to help you with them choices, it's 100% better.
And so you lost 2 children to gun violence in California.
Yes, they was murdered, yes.
Actually murdered. You don't want to make it sound like a nice, sanitized kind of thing. It was
no, they were slaughtered in the street.
Slaughtered in the streets of California.
It hurts. 2007 Father Day. And April the 3rd, 2003.
Young children?
15, both was murdered at 15 years old. Never experienced life, you know, never understood life. But see, that's what we go through when we being misled in these streets, and as young kids, we not really knowing what we're doing. We taking up on diabolical things that we doing. We hurting our mothers, our fathers, you know, we're hurting our loved ones. And it's no one there really to teach them a better lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And that's what my hope in this program here will be able to reach out and touch them.
Because you didn't have boot camp and all that.
No, we didn't have none of that growing up. All that's abolished, you know, from us when we tried to reach out. There wasn't no program like Ms. Greenleaf has, you know, Nazareth Peacemaker. Wasn't none of that around for us. But in the other community was, not in the black community.
Mm-hmm. And so, Mr. Bell, you're trying to prevent situations like this from happening to your children. Is that what are you telling them now, Mr. Bell?
Yes, very well. I don't want my sons to be victims of that, and every day I do my best to be there for them. And by me being there, you know, I try to have a structured lifestyle, you know, go to work, try to come home, help them with their homework, be in tune with them, instead of me just being out doing the stuff I used to do, you know, being caught up in that lifestyle. And I want them to be better men, and by them being better men, I try to tell them, you know, don't do it like this. Don't listen to your buddies at school. You know, come talk to me because I've been there and done that. And you know, a lot of youngsters think, oh, you you really don't know. No, you don't know. Mm-hmm. You see, I've been there, and you know, and it's hard when when I was gone, being, you know, locked up for a period of time, you know, they asked me like, where were you at? And I had to tell them I was on a job run or something like that. And I don't want to have to go back and do that. You know, it hurts talking, you know, to my daughter, you know, and my son through a glass. And, you know, I don't want them being that, you know, because it was one time, you know, I cried on my bunk, you know, I said, my children should not go through this, you know, and that's all from being just misled with the choices, you know, because, you know, when you're young, you don't know no better. It's the worst experience, you know, if you don't have nobody there and the proper love to reach out to show you instead of just beating you down, not giving you no hope, not giving you nothing to grab on. So, you know, you really have to give them something to, hey, I got something to live for. I see the light, you know, somebody's there.
Okay, and so Ms. Greenlee, in a real sense, the men play a significant role. That's what you were saying over the last minute that we have here. Play a significant role, and as long as we can hear their stories, and I think that these two gentlemen, both Mr. Harris as well as Mr. Bell have real stories. Him talking about his incarceration and looking through the glass at his relatives and picking up the telephone on one side and then on the other side. That's some of the things that you don't want your children to go through.
No.
And had you been able to perhaps save your children, Mr. Harris, you probably would have done something different than what you've done. And so that's essentially what we want to talk about as we come down to this final segment. I mean, the final few minutes of this particular segment, and we appreciate the two of you giving us that information. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you, and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Ms. Greenlee and Mr. Howard, both who have given us, Ms. Greenlee has given us some excellent information in reference to an organization called Save Our Sons. And Mr. Howard has some additional information to give in reference to his own personal experiences with the death of one of his children, or his child. And of course, Ms. Greenlee, why don't you say some things in reference to how the fathers are able to play a significant role in terms of helping us to somehow deal with all of these problems with youth violence and murder and et cetera, and then allow Mr. Howard to give us some information in reference to his own personal experiences.
Yes, Dr. Haney, for the years that I've been out here in the community, I've seen over and over and over, even going to funerals, that the fathers plays a huge part in being absent from our children and our youth. When we go to the funerals, everybody always come to us, but I know that for a fact that there's been fathers that have been sitting there next to the mother, but no one knows anything about them or their voice, and you just like, oh ma'am, I'm so sorry what happened, and then you pass on. And that father needs to be touched also and say, sir, I really feel your pain, or I'm sorry this happened to you. But the fathers won't step up, and I don't know why. And I'm hoping that these men that I've brought with me today that will help bring that forth. This young man here sitting to my right now, Mr. Howard, he's a hard-working man out in the community, been out there for years. And when I got a phone call about him and his tragedy, it struck me and it really touched my heart, and I had to reach out to him once again.
Very good. Mr. Howard, why don't you tell us something about your own personal experiences in reference to this?
Well, I've been working in the community for like the last 11 years through my own organization. It's called Personal Interest in Changing Character, because my interest was personal. You know, I spent 20 years out here in these streets, you know, doing the things that we did, because we got caught up, you know, I went to college, so I'm college educated, but I got caught up in a lifestyle, and it kind of took me away from my family, but I still was there to raise my kids. Now, after I was incarcerated, I came out here and I had the need to just make a change for myself and these young men who struggle in life from lack of opportunity, lack of hope. And so it's been a tough 10 years, but recently, that whole struggle, that whole hopelessness, that whole lack of opportunity, you know, hit home. My son, Jawan Booker, was murdered a month ago. okay? And we buried him 3 weeks ago, okay? So even though I'm feeling the anger and the frustration, you know, I'm still out here to do the work because these young men need to hold on to more than just what these streets have to offer, you know. These streets don't have too much to offer, you know. You need to give these young men some opportunities, some hope to do something different than what they're already doing.
And so you got a personal testimony, and as you said, the whole thing sort of came home to you when it happens, things that you've been trying to prevent from happening to youth for the longest, for the 10 years, all of a sudden you get the word that something has happened to your child. What was your first feeling in reference to that, Mr. Howard?
My first feeling was anger, frustration, you know, hopelessness because I couldn't do nothing myself.
Because you'd already talked to him about it, undoubtedly.
Well, I mean, I talked to him about it, and sometimes, you know, it's just the wrong place, wrong time, okay? And you know, my son was a good kid, but you know, he had his issues as well, but he had tried to make a difference in his life, you know. He was taking care of his family, you know, working, doing everything that he should do. But always, when you change, the streets don't change with you. So whatever came with that, sometimes, you know, it comes back to you. You know, it's kind of the chicken come home to roost. You know what I mean? And you know, it's unfortunate. You know, it's a struggle daily, but you know, I know that I can still continue to make a difference. And though I lost my son, somebody may not have to lose theirs.
By what some of the things that you might be able to say or some of the things you might be able to do, you can prevent that from happening to others.
Yes, sir.
Is that the general way that folks feel in reference to that, Ms. Greenlee? Speak to that.
Yes, exactly. You know, I was kind of out there in the streets doing this before my son was murdered, just like Mr. Howard. So, but it gives you more passion to really want to get out there to stop that next bullet for that next child, or just that innocent grown person that can be just coming out the door. Again, until we address the plentifulness of the guns that's coming into our poor, low-income neighborhoods. We can talk about the gangs, the bad youth all day long, but we need to start also focusing back on how they're really getting these guns. I could say my son would have been still here if it wasn't for him getting, you know, them having that gun. We need to talk about why we don't have opportunities. Why every time something go on in our community, it get cut, low budget cut, campsites get cut, free lunch get cut, any kind of job program get cut. Why we always be the one to get chopped down? Now, I'm asking everybody, the system, elected officials and all, to just come together. And yeah, I do like the movie Tyler Perry, Have Our Haves and the Have-Nots. But see, as one of the young men said, that's an illusion that's going on, but that's a true story. And this is how the system got us living. You know, it's sad because how I can go down one street and say, oh, look at those beautiful homes. And I turned on one little block and like, damn, it's a third world country. So why do we have to keep on being divided like that? So until we talk about socializing and socioeconomics here with our kids again, and let me just say this, Dr. Haney, when are we gonna get bold enough where we're gonna start talking about this in schools, libraries, churches, and just in open tables at home? We don't even have dinner at the table anymore. Everybody eating over there, everybody eating upstairs, and some people don't eat at home. I think until they let us start speaking on this and letting us, you know, one Sunday a month, let us come into church and talk about youth gang, teen pregnancy, drugs, all of this, guns. You know, my step grandson would still be here. The young man had the gun. He accidentally killed him, but where did he get the gun? So until we start talking about other things other than gang member, this and that, and not the solution, we just gonna keep on having these conversations.
Mr. Howard, what would you say in reference to trying to convince and say some other words to our young people?
Well, the young people, they got a saying, you know what I mean, that I'm ready to die. But I want to challenge all young people to just, you know, find something that you want to live for.
Ready to live.
And live for that. You know, it's more to it than just coming out here and dying for nothing. You know, and the greatest thing out here is a lot of times these streets offer a sense of belonging, a sense of opportunity, whereas, you know, We don't have no job programs. We don't have nowhere for the young men and like women to go. We don't have nothing for them to do positive. You know, when I was growing up, you know, you always had something to do. I mean, the center state opened at like 11 o'clock. You know, now they have nowhere, no safe havens, and you know, it's just we need to find something for them to do. And my hope is for you know us to be able to just make a change in like young people's lives.
Ms. Greenlee, over the last minute and 25 seconds we have, do you think it would be cost effective if we could come up with some kind of programs that would prevent the things from happening that we're talking about here?
Yes, the program I'm coming up with now out of my own home, starting in my garage. I'm already starting a GED class there because I found out half of them have already been expelled and they've already been put out of alternative school. I also got a group called Straight Talk. That's meaning I'm bringing all the young men in and just straight talk about what's going on. I got another group called Back to Basics. That's bringing all the young ladies in and let them talk about personal hygiene and what's going on with them. They don't want to hear about college and fire department and all that right now. You need to find out what's going on with them. So quit talking about, I didn't get in this program, I didn't qualify for this program. We either make $1 too much or $1 too less. It's going to always be there. Start on your own front porch in your own living room and just get your ass out here and grab these kids and quit giving me all the excuses.
And that you think that will have some kind of impact if we could all do that?
That'll have a great impact. In fact, April the 18th, I'm having a job readiness program, and we'll have some employers come out and we'll have somebody teach how to get prepared for a job. It'll be April 18th at Community Christian Church, 828 Lissy Avenue. So come out there and try to get your job.
Very good. So let me thank you, Mr. Howard, and Ms. Greenlee, as well as the other two guests that we have for bringing that excellent information by. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning. Thank you and welcome to the show today. The topic this morning is Selma, Alabama. And so we have with us to talk about this great event that occurred quite recently in the celebration of the Voting Rights Act activity in Selma, Alabama in the 1960s. And of course, Minister Taylor, you've been with us on a number of occasions and you've given us excellent information. And I'm sure that most members of our audience know you by sight. But for those few who might not know you, let's have you, first of all, to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of your experiences during this first 6 minutes. And then after that, we'll have a commercial break, and then we'll come back and talk about Selma, because I think that it's personal to you, because you have a personal relationship dealing with Selma. So let's do it from that perspective.
Okay. Dr. Haney, I was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 1955. And I am an alum of Selma University. Went to school there in Tuscaloosa, high school, elementary school, and also in Selma. When I went to school there, I worked in the Dallas County city and county schools. And we graduated from Selma University in 1980, went there in 1977. And I've learned a lot about Selma, side of Selma that a lot of people don't know. And one of the other things, Dr. Revis Mitchell, what he has done at Fisk University with the buildings named for the people who attended there, we have done the same thing at Selma University we are telling the story of Selma through the minds of the educators who went to school at Selma University, because the movie did not tell this side of the story. And it's very important for people to know how Selma has influenced so many areas. President Lyndon B. Johnson said he compared Selma to Appomattox, Concord, and Lexington during the Civil War. And in Alabama today, there are 10 cities that are the most dangerous places to live. And you can trace that back to Selma, because Selma has been the epicenter for a lot of things that are going on in Alabama. And I'm most passionate about having an opportunity to highlight Tony Chestnut's book, Black in Selma. Dr. J. Robert Bradley sang at Selma University in May 31st, 1966. And so the history is rich, and the people need to know, the young people need to know about all aspects of Selma, what going into making it what it is today.
Okay, well, first let's get into some of the information in reference to the what you believe to be the historical information that you want to bring us in reference to. Start us off at what you consider to be the very, very beginning that would eventually lead 50 years later to a celebration that we had in Selma. Some information in reference to how we got there.
Okay. Well, you know that in Tony Chestnut's book, I remember the area where they decided to go to Birmingham to seek out Dr. MLK Jr. to talk to him about using Selma as a city to launch the voters' right, you know, in Selma. And so that's what they did, brought him there. And also, Dr. Haney, I have to use this time to share that there were people who were helped by the Selma movement, and there were people who were hurt by it. And so we are highlighting all aspects of it as much as possible. Tony Chestnut's mother, Auntie, said that after the Civil Rights Movement left Selma, that it took a whole year for the kids to learn how to concentrate in the classroom again. And that's very important. And in Selma, that directly, you know, influenced my family in our developmental process of learning, you know, and there are a lot of things that happen in Selma that have influenced people who were in those classrooms that they don't even know how to put into words today. And so historically, I'm speaking from the educational perspective, the Common Core. You know, there is a Common Core that I have in Selma with those who went through various experiences during the time in the classroom in Selma.
So Selma was a difficult time for African Americans, period, which is to say that it was not that much different throughout the southern parts of the United States in a real sense, but it really sort of was a traumatic time to live and be black in Selma. Is that what you're saying?
Most definitely. And in Dr. T.J. Jemisin's book, his life story, it says it compares Selma to apartheid in South Africa back in the 60s and 50s. You know, that's in his book too.
And so when Dr. Martin Luther King and others went there, they had to face a real entrenched kind of bigotry and racism and et cetera. And this is what they had to overcome. And this is the story in a real sense of the ability to overcome that. This is the story of the celebration in a real sense of 50 years later. Is that what we're saying?
Well, I would say it is a celebration, but I won't say that they have
overcome.
Right.
Okay, very good. And so we're going to take this first commercial break.
Okay.
And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of today. We're talking to Minister Gregory Taylor from Selma, Alabama itself. And Mr. Taylor has given us some excellent information in reference to his background, education, and some of his experiences. And now, Mr. Taylor, if you could give us some information in reference to Selma before the beginning of the Civil Rights Movement and bring us up to that period over the next 8 minutes. And then during that final 10 minutes, we'll get into the impact that it had and that brought all of these folks from all over the world to that little city at one time. And let's do it from that perspective.
Okay. And Dr. Haney, I'm telling you Selma exactly the way it was told to me. The late Dr. O.S. Harvey, who was pastor of First Baptist Church in Northport, Alabama, used to always tell us that in Selma, making reference to the school, Selma University, and I told Tony Chestnut when I was reading his book, Black in Selma, that I would always count on him to tell me the story of Selma, and his son, Terry Chestnut, now, and I are keeping that tradition going. But Dr. Harvey used to say the day would come when black people in Alabama would lead that school like never before. And to make reference to the point Dr. D.V. Jemison, who was the father of Dr. T.J. Jemison, was pastor of the Tabernacle Baptist Church at the time that the things were going on there in the 60s. And his son has duplicated his ministry in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But I'm coming to where you are. In Selma, as a student at Selma University, we learned about the first classroom where the civil rights movement left from Dinkins Memorial. That's 4 ministers who led the civil rights movement out of the school into the streets. Dr. Bernard Lafayette was one of the ministers that were mentioned often in the Selma book, Black in Selma. And I've had the chance to talk to him about Selma. But there were opinions like Dr. Owens, who was president of the school. I have a history of the other side where they were saying to the protesters, you have to check yourself when you're going out protesting one day and then the next day you're going to these businesses asking them for money, you know. And I'm getting at the point here, there have been several 50th anniversaries. The 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, the 50th anniversary of the voters' right, the 50th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education. And a lot of people don't know when it comes to education, I can't help but to think about May 17th, 1954, which should have been our first national education holiday, not the MLK holiday. A lot of people don't know that. So it is important for us to educate them on all aspects of Selma. And Selma is like an epicenter, like an earthquake. It's the epicenter of a lot of things that are going on in Alabama right today. There are 10 cities that are the most dangerous place to live. Selma was also like the tree ring in a tree. You know, when a tree is cut down, you can look at the circles around it and you can tell the conditions, the sunlight, the water, and all of that that the tree got. And so there's the same situation in Selma. And in the book, Black in Selma, there were civil rights activists who went into the homes of African Americans males and humiliated them in front of their families because they didn't embrace the method by which they were going about getting their rights. You know, they got all of the rights. I don't have the emotions of the 60s era, so I'm not enthused about the civil rights 50th anniversary because what happened, we lost our property as a result of the infighting. We lost our interpersonal communication skills. My mother and sisters and people who have seen my writing know I can't write. I'm a scribbler. They know this, but I identified on March 8th that our interpersonal communication skills prevented them from being able to teach me basic reading, write, and arithmetic because they lost the interpersonal communication skills. Protest, psychosis set in, and the interpersonal communication skills went into remission. And then we lost a brother. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with this, but I have the research to prove it, found it in Australia to show that my mother was carrying the son before me, that the voice of the civil rights leader, which she was keeping up with, was responsible for his at electus intracranial hemorrhage. So for me, there is nothing to celebrate about the 50th anniversary of the march until we are able to examine all aspects of it and give these kids the whole true picture so that they will be balanced today as they approach their education and get understanding of themselves. The future of education is focusing today in the area of biomedical communication and good customer service. And I just think we also, as the coverage, I saw the coverage in one of the newspapers here, they have really covered Selma good. But this area that is left out, what do we do about that? You know, how do we show how that is connected to today? There's a common thread running from Tuscaloosa. And also, Dr. Haney, I went to Selma University against my mother and father's will. They did not want me to go there. But in 1992, on visiting Selma University, I found in the Selma University Chronicle an article by L. Wilkins, PhD, and she said when the civil rights movement left Selma, it left a schism, it left a lack of spiritualness, a moral decay, and a confusion that affected the families, the schools, and the churches. And that's still in Selma today. And one of the oldest ministers, Dr. C.A. Ladd, who died at 99 and 7 months old, told me that the spirit of Selma, the civil rights movement, moves from church to church in Selma like it's a whirlwind. This is a gentleman who lived there, saw 30 years before, 30 years doing, and 30
30
years
years
after.
after.
That's right. That was his story, Dr. C.A. Ladd. And at the end of his life, I was able to comfort him by getting him Dr. J. Robert Bradley's music to listen to. And Dr. Bradley, as I said earlier, sang there on May 31st, 1955. And his singing was being done in the college campuses to diffuse racial tension and create positive relationship among the races. And what troubles me, Dr. Haney, it seems to me this side, no one wants to be known. They don't want people to hear.
Yeah, that
this
side of Selma.
they
It
don't-
didn't all start with walking across the bridge.
That's right.
But the thing about it, though, Brother Taylor, is that the walking across the bridge and the reaction to walking across the bridge sort of demonstrated in a silent way what must have happened for folks to get out on a bridge and to be confronted by the authorities and to give, in a real sense, to even challenge the authorities. Something had to happen to propel that.
Excellent point. And this is one of the things I talked to one of my elders that's from Selma University about. Congressman John Lewis is perpetuating this idea about MLK, the father of the new America. That's not true. MLK is not the father of the new America. And that stuff that they've been perpetuating, I never forget, a chief of police in Atlanta told me that if the civil rights movement was an anchor, that's negative. If it was a rudder, that's positive. But what it appears to me today, after witnessing that 50th anniversary down there, it appears that they've been perpetuating it as a rudder, but it's really they had in mind for it to be an anchor. And now it has missed the opportunity to be an anchor and a rudder.
And so what we're going to do, Mr. Taylor, is to take this first commercial break,
Yes.
and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Minister Gregory Taylor. He's given us some information in reference to the early history of Selma, and as well as some additional information leading up to the celebration of the 50th anniversary, dealing with an activity leading toward black folks trying to vote or to exercise the suffrage in Selma and throughout the state of Alabama. So let's pick up from that perspective. I mean, the real cause of the march was that Africans were denied the right, their 15th Amendment rights, and this is the way I understand it, denied their 15th Amendment right to vote. And so the protest was eventually led through the driving force of getting Africans into the ballot box. And so let's talk about it from that perspective.
Okay. Dr. Haney, first of all, I was delighted to see President Obama there. I believe he's the first sitting president to actually speak from the bridge. A lot of the others were vice presidents who had always gone down. And following that, I think Governor Hunt, not Brentley, but Riley, Governor Riley was one of the first governors, I believe, to walk with the people across the bridge. And I have always watched that bridge ceremony very closely. And I remember one of the times when I first saw Dr. Harold Carter walking across the bridge. He's one of the sons of Selma and that type of thing. But seeing President Obama there, it was very encouraging to me to help us to get past that period. Randy Williams on WHPP radio in Selma, he has a quote to say, around Selma, they say they still on the bridge. You know, it's something about the bridge. I even had one preacher one time, we had a difference of opinion one time, and he sent me a postcard with a picture of the Edmonds Pettus Bridge on it, you know. And I sent him a postcard back of Chief Red Cloud of the Guadalupe Indians. But anyway, the point is, it's a great history. President Johnson said, compared it to Appomattox Concord in Lexington, and that's the most depressing time in April and all of the Civil War.